How many of you have had the thought that if I finish this exam or if I solve this problem, life will be good? That I can start my life properly and things can begin. Or that if I solve this problem, I will be happy. Raise your hand if you've thought like that. I don't know if you did or didn't. I will trust you to, believe that you did, because I certainly can't see your hands. I used to think like that too growing up. I learned how to pronounce words like retinitis pigmentosa, Stargardt's, and cornea before I learned how to say chicken nuggets and French fries. The primary reason for this was that I spent half my life running around hospitals and clinics or different Peer Baba's darbars in hopes of finding the ever-elusive cure. The primary reason for this was that any time people would see me, they would feel the need to ask me, "Aapne kabhi ऐनक नहीं लगाई?" As if my family never thought of that. "Aap kabhi doctor ke paas nahi gayi?" That's a surprising thought. I could never have thought of that myself. So that is the kind of expectation that I was surrounded by growing up. Every time I'd go to a doctor, they'd refer me to someone else, another specialist, maybe someone abroad, in the US or the UK or even India. Although getting an Indian visa, maybe they can cure my blindness, but I don't think I'll get the Indian visa to go there. They always wanted to refer us to someone who would give us hope, someone who could give us a cure, someone who could make me less blind. The message was always the same. Your life will really begin once your blindness is cured. I prayed as hard as I could, as much as I could, for God to return my vision. Clearly, that didn't quite work out because, as you can see, I'm still blind. I remember when I was doing my GCSE or O-levels, I needed a certificate from the doctor proving that I'm blind. Hello, I've spent 15 years of my life like this. Why do I need to prove that again? But I did. Even then, I sat in the doctor's waiting room for 6 hours because he had a long waiting list. And when I went inside the room, the first thing he said to me was, "There is a cure. There is hope. In 3 years' time, you will be able to see." Because they've started experimenting and the experiments are finally working. I'd been going to that doctor for the past 15 years. Every time I'd go to that office, he would say 3 more years. So those 3 years never really quite ended. Before I could stop myself, as I sat on that doctor's chair, I burst out and I said, "You've been saying that to me every time I come to you. It's been quite many years. If I had a pound for every time you told me 3 more years, I would have a college endowment fund and not have to think about scholarship applications." He looked a bit taken aback. I mean, I didn't see it, but I'm sure he sounded it, okay, guys? In that moment, all those little Khansas flashed in front of my eyes. The little Khansa who was 2 years old, the little Khansa who was 4 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, you get the point. I thought of all those little girls who came to this office and every time took a hope back, a hope of 3 years. 3 years that never passed. And I remember saying to him, "How is this fair that every little kid who comes to you, you tell them to wait for another 3 years that never finish?" Parents spend their entire lives savings. They start borrowing from relatives. When that fails, they start selling everything they own in hopes that one surgery, two surgeries, three surgeries, something will finally work out and give them that cure. They don't think about investing in their child's education. They don't think about extracurricular activities or even fun trips, simply because they are moving on the basis of that hope of those 3 years that never passed. It's been more than 10 years since that conversation. I've been to Oxford, I've been to Georgetown, completed my bachelor's, gotten the Rhodes Scholarship, all of these things. And the doctor's 3 years aren't over. Hopefully, I'll complete my PhD before his 3 years because I don't want my PhD to have that same timeline. For the longest time, I thought that the exam of my life would be over after finding the cure. I'm sure the doctors just wanted to give me hope. But my family did not raise me to think like that. Yes, they searched for a cure and they took me to all the Peer Babas that anyone ever suggested. In fact, once we were sitting in a restaurant and one of the servers brought us a napkin with a number written on it. It wasn't his number. It was the number of a Peer Baba who apparently he thought had cured someone in his village. My family's focus was on helping me grow in any way that I could. Imagine waking up tomorrow and your life is suddenly different than how you imagined it to be. Not in a way that you wanted or planned for, but in a way that was completely unexpected. That was my mother's reality when she found out that she had two blind kids. There was no roadmap, no guidebook, and no number to call for advice. She probably was very excited when somebody told her she was having kids. She probably got all those, pink blankets and blue blankets and frocks and all of these things. But what she didn't expect was two blind kids. She had no idea what to do. But instead of waiting for a fully created plan to land in her lap, she decided that she was going to step up. It was messy at first, still is, to be honest. It started with sending us to a mainstream school because she saw the reality of blind students who went to what we call special schools in Pakistan. Because unfortunately, due to lack of resources, those children never quite achieved their potential. And then from the mainstream school, she moved on with letting us explore, with letting us stretch our wings and fulfill our potential. To be honest, I don't know where it'll take us because we're still figuring it out. But I can tell you this, that there's more beauty in creating this plan together, one step and one hurdle at a time, as opposed to waiting for a cure that still isn't here. We're all chasing something, a grade, a career, a future that we hope will make us have a mark on this world. Something that we hope will finally make our life normal and worth living. But what if I told you that normal is just an idea and maybe not even a useful one? You will tell me, Khansa, I've heard of this before. But what I was chasing was normality. All along, people told me that I should be able to see and be normal, be like other children. A cure that would stop me from being disabled was a necessity. But when I let go of that idea, I found that I was more fulfilled, more happy, and more capable and more alive. I don't want to be normal at all, as if I could ever be that, because normal means blending in. And with my white cane and my heels, neither of those I have with me today. But normally I do. So with my white cane and my heels, I could never blend in or be normal in those expectations. Hope is a very tricky thing. Sometimes it feels like a finish line. But what if hope isn't at the end of the road? What if it's something we build along the way? With all the interesting people that we meet, the experiences that we have, the sad things, the happy things, the things that give us fulfillment. Growing up, I thought life worked in a very straight line. Problem, solution, happiness. Surprise, life doesn't quite work that way. Uh, Things are not as simple as that. What I realize is that life doesn't wait for you to have that solution before the problem comes to you. At the risk of sounding presumptuous, let me correct Albus Dumbledore. Hope and happiness can be found in the darkest of times, only if you remember to turn on the light. But I will say, whether you turn on the light or not, it doesn't make any difference to me because I am still as blind as I was when I was born, perhaps happier, more fulfilled, and more accomplished. Thank you.